So we have a lot to get into today in what ended up being a pretty busy day, a pretty eventful day, but the place that I want to start, obviously the most important news of today is that Matt Chapman has a new walk-up song, and he's not going back to Not Like Us. He's not sticking with Antidote by Travis Scott. He is going in the complete opposite direction sonically by using Burning Down the House by Talking Heads. I personally, if I was going with a Talking Heads song, I'd go with This Must Be the Place because it's a damn classic. It is an absolute classic song. But Burning Down the House definitely will. It scratches an itch as far as kind of a throwback song that you want to hear reverberating throughout a ballpark. And considering Chapman homer today, he might continue to stick with that walk-up song for the foreseeable future. But as I mentioned, a lot to get into from today, and we'll start with in the morning. When Major League Baseball released the schedules for all 30 teams, that of course includes the Giants, they will start the season at home, pretty much a rarity for them to start the season at Oracle Park. It'll just be, I think it's either the fifth or the sixth time this millennium that they've started a season at home. They'll do so against the New York Yankees, so that's an opportunity for Aaron Judge to be in town. Over the course of that series, we'll probably see former Giant Carlos Rodon as well. And what's really cool, too, is that that game, which I believe is on March 25th or March 26th, it's going to be kind of a standalone. It's going to be the only game on that day. At least I believe so. I think it's going to be like a prime time event. It's not just going to be one of many games going on. I think it's going to happen at night, and it's going to be like the standalone event of the day, and then they'll have the day off after that, and then they'll continue throughout the weekend. But a couple other highlights to get into from the schedule release. The big one is that Rafael Devers is going to be returning to Boston. That shouldn't come as much of a surprise given the balanced schedule that's going to happen in August. And it is a very interesting contrast because this past weekend, Willy Adames went back to Milwaukee. He received a very warm standing ovation right before his first at-bat, and then obviously hits a solo homer on the first pitch from Jose Quintana. Immediately gets showered with boos. They're actually showing the opening series thing right there on the scoreboard. Ends up hitting 2 homers that game, but it was kind of one of those things where there was boos, but there was a lot of love in those boos just because of what Adames accomplished in his 3.5 years as a Milwaukee Brewers, second best shortstop in franchise history behind Robin Yount. The Devers situation will be very different. There will be a lot of boos, and they will be filled not with love but with vitriol. And considering all the drama that unfolded earlier this year, going back to spring training with the signing of Alex Bregman, how Devers didn't want to move off third base, but then eventually acquiesced, and then the Tristan Casas having the season-ending injury and Devers not wanting to play first base. It was just a very ugly divorce from Boston. Of course, one that ends with the Giants sending 4 players over to Boston in exchange for Devers, and we've talked about a lot over the course of these last couple of weeks how Devers just kind of hasn't met that form that he had in Boston yet. And the kind of twist to all this is that there is a greater than 0% chance that Devers is playing first base when he returns to Boston. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with Bryce Eldridge, but there is a greater than 0% chance that that possibility unfolds, that he plays the very position that he declined to play in Boston with San Francisco, which would just add more fuel to that fire of what's going to be it's also going to come on a weekend too. This isn't like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. This is a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. So I would expect there to be a very healthy amount of vitriol. And there's also the possibility that Kyle Harrison's on the mound for one of those games as well. The De La Salle kid who had the opportunity to pitch with his hometown team, and of course is part of the Devers trade that nets Devers, and he, along with Hicks, Jose Bayo, and James Tips III, who actually got rerouted to the Dodgers, as part of the trade deadline. Now as part of the Boston Red Sox. I don't even think that was a complete sentence. Anyway, a couple other highlights of that schedule. There will be a couple pretty lengthy road trips early on. There is a stretch where they play 20 of 26 on the road, these back-to-back kind of 10-game road trips, but none of them are too strenuous necessarily. I think the first 10-game road trip, it's like Dodgers, Athletics, Diamondbacks, and I think the second one is Rockies, Brewers, Cubs. So nothing too crazy. I think there's like a DC, Cincinnati, Nationals one sprinkled in there as well towards the end of the year. But I don't think there's anything too crazy as far as travel, whereas compared to Earlier this year, I think it was like the Nationals, Tigers, Miami, and then going back home. I think there was also one, whatever. We'll get into that's enough for the travel logistics as far as road trips. One other thing to note as far as the schedule is that the Giants will play all of their division opponents by the end of May, which, kind of one of the consequences of the balanced schedule is a season like this one where they didn't play the Dodgers until June. Giants won't be hosting 4th of July, but they will be hosting Labor Day and Memorial Day. That's pretty much the big highlights as far as the schedule. Now, getting into the big news pregame, Randy Rodríguez was placed on the 15-day injured list with a right elbow sprain, and right-hander Keaton Winn was recalled from AAA Sacramento in a corresponding move. And this comes after Rodríguez dealt with some arm soreness in Milwaukee. On Sunday, that would have been his opportunity to pitch with the Giants, clinging to a 4-3 lead. Ryan Walker pitches that 9th inning instead of Rodríguez. And we've seen over the course of this year how the Giants have tried to be very careful with Rodríguez. They've pretty much limited him as far as back-to-backs. I think he's only thrown 6 this year. They've been very cautious about his workload, ensuring that he has the appropriate amount of rest. I remember going back to it was the series against the Mets when they hosted them here, where I think he pitched twice that series and then didn't pitch for the entirety of the Pirates series. And even with all of the caution that the Giants were trying to exercise in regards to Rodríguez, still weren't able to prevent him from hitting the injured list with a right elbow sprain. He received an MRI yesterday. He was slated to meet with team doctors tonight, and manager Bob Melvin said prior to today's game that Rodríguez was likely going to seek a second opinion. And when you combine, an elbow sprain with a second opinion, there is a route that's leading towards, and of course the worst case scenario for Rodríguez, especially given the season that he's had, especially given the trades that the Giants have made, would of course be Tommy John surgery. This is not me saying that is official. This is not me saying that's on the table. But when you think of an elbow sprain and seeking a second opinion, those are pretty much the things that line up for that possibility to exist. So we'll kind of just have to wait and see with Rodríguez. It is worth noting that last year he did miss about 6 weeks with right elbow inflammation, so this isn't something new that he's had to deal with. And again, it was part of the reason why the Giants were so cautious with him in the first place. And if his season, well, not even if his season, given the fact that I think we have 4 weeks left, roughly about 30 games, not even roughly, we have 30 games remaining exactly. It's very likely that we don't see Rodríguez for the remainder of this season, given where the Giants kind of stand as far as the standings, given how, even looking at Eric Miller, for example, he's been dealing with a left elbow sprain for an extended period of time. He's likely done for the season as well. Nothing official on that end, but when you consider the fact that he's still no throw, and again, 30 games remaining, it's very unlikely that he pitches again. It's very unlikely that either of them pitch again. So now going into the game itself, Justin Verlander on the mound for, I believe, the 24th time this year. And Verlander turned in another quality start, 6 innings, 2 runs, departed the game with a 3-2 lead, so in line for a win. And there have been, I remember the stats actually, there have been 6 occasions where Verlander has exited the ball game in line for a win and ultimately doesn't get it. And it was impossible to ignore that feeling when Verlander departed, even for as well as he pitched. Again, 6 innings, 2 runs, was able to work around a fair amount of traffic that the Cubs were able to put on the bases. When the Giants are only clinging to a 1-run lead, it's very natural for anybody that's watched a lot of Verlander starts this year to say, here we go again. There's a good possibility that the Giants don't end up with a win for Verlander, that he ends up with a no decision. But what ends up happening is that, again, Giants leading 3-2, going into the bottom of the 6th, Matt Chapman hits a 2-run homer. Giants end up taking a 5-2 lead, and from there, Joey Lucchesi, Jose Butto, and Ryan Walker secure Verlander's second win of the season, as well as the 264th of his career. Lucchesi retires all 4 batters that he faced. Butto retires all 2 batters that he faced, and then Ryan Walker works around a 1-out single from Dansby Swanson, is able to shut the door. And Walker, who is now going to be the Giants' closer with Rodríguez currently on the injured list, secure. I don't think it was a save, or it may have been a save. The 3-run rule always throws me off. But anyway, he finishes the game off for the Giants. They win 5-2. It's their first time winning 3 consecutive games since early August. And for Verlander, in addition to winning his 264th career game, he also passes Walter Johnson for 9th all-time on the all-time strikeout list. He is currently 15 strikeouts away from passing Gaylord Perry, of course, Hall of Famer, who played for the Giants, for 8th all-time on the all-time strikeout list.